With another transfer now officially enrolled at WVU, it's time for another roster update here on the Country Roads webcast. Let's go. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with the Country Roads webcast. And before I get into this video, let me just give you guys a quick reminder. If you would, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button, give us a like on this video. It'll really help its performance, which in turn helps future videos performances here on the channel. And if you're a West Virginia fan and you haven't already, be sure and hit that subscribe button. Helps us and it helps you, as it helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, let's get into it. All right. So as I stated in our January 18th WVU football roster update here on the Country Roads webcast, I'd continue to update the roster as more transfers officially enrolled. And of course, the day after that I released that update, West Virginia announced another transfer enrolling. So I'll continue to drop updates as they happen. I'm sure we will hear of more coming here in the near future. To still have 2 transfers yet to enroll at WVU, or at least be officially announced by the university and put on the roster. Once that happens, I'll provide roster updates on those dates. Today, we're here for the January 21st roster update here as far as West Virginia's football roster is currently concerned. And the impetus for this roster update, of course, was the addition of Devin Carter, the wide receiver transfer from NC State that we know I did a video on previously updating when he committed to West Virginia, when it was known he would be coming to the Mountaineers. I'll try and put a card for that here, right here in the video for you guys if you want to click on that and watch that if you haven't already. So with the addition of Devin Carter, had to update the roster here a little bit. So let's take a look now at the updated WVU football roster as it currently stands here on January 21st. All right, for those of you that didn't get to catch our January 18th West Virginia football roster update, I'm just continuing to update this roster as the season progresses. I'm going to scroll through this for you guys that maybe hadn't got to look at it yet while it's up there on the screen. You can look at it, then I'll come back here to the wide receiver position that we're going to talk about here as the reason for this roster update. But what I'm basically doing is putting the scholarship players that West Virginia has on the roster officially enrolled at the university onto the roster and kind of trying to fit them into what position I think they may play at West Virginia, and, you know, trying to update it as we go along, whether it be learning that they're playing a different position or, like in this case, a transfer enrolling at West Virginia, and just kind of keep a running track of these scholarship players on West Virginia's roster. No walk-ons on this list. I'm just only doing the scholarship players just to keep it more brief and a little bit easier to keep up with. As I said, it's just something that I usually like to do anyway on my own, keep up with the West Virginia roster a little bit. So I figured maybe some other people like to as well, and I could share it with you guys. And that way you guys know a little bit of the roster heading into the season, because it seems like that's one thing a lot of people always say, especially now in the transfer portal age, is I don't really even know who's on our team this year. So hopefully maybe if you follow along here on the Country Roads webcast throughout this offseason, you'll know a little bit of the faces beforehand throughout the preseason for the Mountaineers and kind of know who's going to be the contributors ahead of time as we get ready to head into the 2023 season here, approaching spring football, which we'll go through. And then we know the roster will change a little bit following spring football. Some players may leave. And as I said, you know, in our transfer portal update, the next transfer portal window opens on May 1st. So, you know, you may have a couple players leave, but you certainly will probably have some more players come in over the summer, and this roster will continue to change. That's why I'm dating these updates in the title. As I said, I released one on January 18th, releasing this one on January 21st, going to update them in the title with, you know, the date included, so you'll know what order to watch them in or which one is the latest West Virginia roster update as we continue throughout the offseason. And I try and update the roster as it progresses, you know, not only through the spring, but also up into the fall and leading up to the final roster that we have there in fall camp for the Mountaineers. As you get a look there at the West Virginia roster as it currently stands here on January 21st. I'm going to scroll back up here to the wide receiver position, which is what we're talking about, the only new addition to the roster here since, if you didn't watch that January 18th update. But since then, here on our January 21st update of the West Virginia football roster, West Virginia has added the transfer from NC State, Devin Carter, officially to the university roster, as they announced in a press release that I shared with you guys earlier. So what I did here on the roster is I took Devin Carter, kind of slotted him in at the X wide receiver position. I figure he'll either play there or Z. Don't know which side him or Cortez are going to be on, but I figure those will be the West Virginia Mountaineers' 2 outside receivers this season, which earlier on the January 18th update, if you saw it, I had Jeremiah Aaron slotted here. This allows Jeremiah Aaron to move into where I kind of think he fits better anyways, is in the inside position. Got him at the Y there with Grayson Malashevich backing him up. And, of course, you have Jashawn Polk there at the other inside receiver at the H position. I think, you know, Rodney Gallagher, when he comes in campus, over the summer is, of course, going to factor in to one of these two inside receiver positions, I believe. And of course, like I said, once he enrolls over the summer, following spring football, we'll have roster updates throughout then. And I'm sure plenty more in the meantime as we continue to go throughout spring football. Like I said, West Virginia still has a couple transfer additions that are committed that are waiting, the official announcement of their enrollments, those being Keyshawn Cobb at Spear and Fatorma Mobile on the defensive line. Once those are added, we'll do another roster update here on the Country Roads webcast. But with the addition of Devin Carter, the transfer from NC State, there is a look at the WVU football roster scholarship players as it currently stands here on January 21st. So there you have it, Mountaineer Nation, a look at the WVU football roster as it currently stands here with scholarship players on January 21st. Hope you guys are enjoying these WVU football roster updates and continue to tune into them as we continue to progress throughout the offseason and more of them come down the line. Be sure and let us know down in the comments your thoughts on the West Virginia roster as it stands and how you would like to see it progress throughout the season and what position you think West Virginia needs to add here as we continue to try and target more players in the transfer portal that West Virginia will add throughout the offseason as we continue to look ahead to what the football roster may look like in its final version in the fall with some of these transfers coming in to contribute for the Mountaineers. We really appreciate those interactions there in the comments as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go, Mountaineers.